Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Healthy Living, Happy Life. I'm Denise Stegall, the Menopause Mentor, and I am here today with my guest, Michelle Suarez. Michelle is an attorney and CDC certified divorce coach with over 2 decades of legal experience that crosses diverse practice areas. Really interesting. But what does she do now? Even more interesting. Michelle blends legal strategy with holistic coaching to guide women through life's most transformative transition. This is important. We're going through transition in midlife. Michelle, you're here to help us talk about another different type of transition. So, how did this happen? How did you go from being an attorney to a divorce coach?
First, thanks, Denise, for having me on here today. Um, it's nice seeing you again. My transition, wow. So I was practicing law for a lot of years, and all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but I ended up going through a divorce. And divorce is not easy. It's one of the most painful situations you can be in. Your whole life is changing, it's falling apart, it's chaotic, right? Like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me tomorrow? So you have I had financial, the same, probably the same worries everyone else has when they're going through this, which is, what am I going to do? What's going to happen? And so, am I going to have money to pay bills? Am I going to, what, my children, what's their life going to be like? So, am I going to live in my house, have to sell my house? So, a huge thought process to the anxiety that's going on in your mind is like, whirling in there. And it's dark. It's a dark place to be. But lucky enough for me, I think I knew the law because I had practiced the law. Um, I knew finances. Um, I had friends that I could call in the midst of my chaos. And as I'm
Sure.
telling you this, the truth is, a lot of days I didn't feel like getting out of bed, right? Like I was so depressed and sad and having to deal with all these things. And I kept having in the back of my mind, how do women that do not have my resources,
Mm.
how are they dealing with this? How do they get through this? Um, and that just kept ringing in the back of my mind. Every time, every mediation, I knew, I would call my friend that was another lawyer, and I didn't know something where I needed a question answered.
Mhm.
She'd pick up the phone, answer. I had a question in financing, the accountant. I knew the key was I knew what to ask and I had who to call. So that gave me a lot of peace of mind. And I would think, geez, I have that. So how are these women that are in this my same situation that do not? How are they getting through it? So fast forward through when my divorce was almost over, I decided I don't know, I felt a calling and a purpose through my pain or through my transition. And I thought, you know what? I really want to help women that are going through this because there is no way that they have this hope. So I ended up completely changing, transitioning my work and going from attorney to full-time divorce coaching or coaching in
Mhm.
life's biggest transitions.
I think so many of us at this stage in life have made career changes or um, just made a decision in the direction that we're going is because of our personal experience. I mean, obviously, I am the menopause mentor because I needed a menopause mentor when I started struggling at age 37.
Right.
And there weren't resources available. And yes, you were fortunate that you did have the knowledge, you knew what to ask. And being able to connect with someone to say, hey, I have this question, who you knew and trusted, and they knew you and trusted,
Right.
that is a huge benefit that you're right. Most women don't have. They may know a little, but don't have that fundamental knowledge. I mean, I certainly know I wouldn't,
Right.
in your area. I know my area because for 17 years I've been experiencing and researching and relearning, right? So I think that's an important thing for our listeners to realize that many of us in this midlife, whatever I don't know, as we're living longer, midlife seems to kind of keep inching,
Mhm.
further and further. Though when it comes to perimenopause and menopause, we still are hitting that about the same age. Um, but long story short here, in midlife, many of us have made transitions. And where you come in for a lot of women is to support them in a very different transition than, say, I do. So explain to me, how does that work? How do you bring this knowledge and experience to coaching?
It's really amazing. As an attorney, I've dealt with real estate, trust, estates, like a variety, right?
Mhm.
So I look at a big picture of where they are in their lives and what's going on and what they want to see or change or what they don't even know about themselves, right?
Right.
Because when we're in this age and let's say we're married or and we're moms, we identify with that person. We kind of lose ourselves a little bit, right?
True.
And then you're in this transition, you've reached menopause or perimenopause, and you're, asking all these questions about yourself, right? So it's kind of the same. And here you are, what do I do now? And what can I do? And what do I even know? Or what value do I even have? Or who am I? Period. Right? Like, and it's such a scary place to be, um, because for so long you've identified with these other sources. So it's really, I help them come back and in source. And I coach them finding who they are, what their power is inside of them, what their purpose is. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden they start realigning. And it's a beautiful transition when I've seen, as a matter of fact, this week I had two clients and I was just so proud of them because they they've been coaching with me for over a year now and their finances are in order. Their their value as an individual as far as what they feel and what they put out in the world has increased twofold, right? They're amazing women. And it was that they started in a place where I'm at home, I'm a mom, and I'm married. And I don't know anything about my finances. What should I even do? Where do I start looking?
Yeah.
And it was incredible to see this week, on Tuesday. I sat with one of them and it was like, I am so proud of you. I was so proud of her because the tremendous changes
Mhm.
in her and now even in her stability in life, right? Because now you're relying on you. You know what's going on. And now she's even gotten a couple of major business deals, right? Personally. Working
Wow.
part-time, doing what she wants in a great position. But it's just the evolution, transition, and she's in her 40s, 45, I believe. So that was just one, and I had two this week. And for me, it's when I know, you know what? You can shift your career, you can transform what you're doing because once you find your purpose, I always see it like this time we have so much experience, right? Even managing
We
our
do.
homes, our children, our other work, our schools, whatever it is we've done.
Mhm.
You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from a place of experience and wisdom. And so it's just going back. I help them go back in and come out successfully.
I love what you just said, and it's funny, because I recently said something similar, um, with a client. When you're a spouse, and maybe you're the stay-at-home mom, the spouse, the husband, he's the breadwinner. Maybe he's the one that knows everything that's going on with the finances. However, as a woman who's running a household, you're running a small business. And I don't think we look at it that way, right? We have our own finances, whether it's, making sure the lawn gets mowed and that person gets paid, the groceries, time management. Yep, the
Hmm.
kids have to be here at this time and I need to pick them up at that time. And then there's the dentist appointment and the doctor appointment. That's huge schedule management.
Yeah.
And it's valuable. So yes, there's a lot of experience. It doesn't have to be in a work environment. but it's still, a business environment. And in a way, when, you're married and you have kids, there's a little bit of a business environment, right? This is my job. This is what I agree to do. This is your job. This is what you agree to do, right? Hopefully there's a little, when you first start out, there's a little bit more, um, this is what we want to do together as
Yes.
opposed to your job, my job, right? But when we're at this stage
Mhm.
in a relationship, right? There's kind of a contract that you've made, and it's a business deal in a way, right? So as a woman who I hate when people say, well, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. The just is it's so belittling to them. And when, like you, when you're talking with your clients, once they realize all the things that they're doing as a mom,
Right.
never just a mom, I think it's really empowering. And I'm so grateful that there are women like you who can help those of us who are kind of floundering, going, okay, what do I do now? How do I even begin?
Right.
So I guess that's one of the questions. How does a woman begin? When somebody comes to you, where are they in, I guess, a process?
So I've had both. I've had women that come to me that are not going through divorce. They just stop working full time and have been home now for 5, 8 years, 10 years. And maybe somebody else got divorced in their group or something lit a spark, right? Whatever they saw. And they're scared and said, what if my husband dies? What if I become a widow? Because it's not just divorce, right? What if I
It's
become a
true.
widow or he becomes disabled? Like there's so many other things that can happen. And yes, then of course, divorce. So kind of like, what am I doing? I feel like I've always worked, even if it's part-time, and now I'm not doing it. She's handling all these other things with her child, right? Like we were talking about. But there's still a sense of like, okay, I'm scared. Like, what if something were to happen? I don't know anything. So they either come to me at that stage or they come to me, here's I'm getting divorced, the chaos in that other area and both of them have to start. I bring them to a place of clarity, right? Which is the most important thing. In either of those two areas, I think, especially divorce, you're in chaos, you're making decisions out of emotions. And like you just
Yes.
said, Denise, marriage is one contract is legal. It's a legally binding contract. But if you think about it, your spouse and you have a financial contract, an emotional contract, right?
True.
So there's a lot that goes into not just the legal part.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah. So emotionally, I mean, that's where I come in. I help them set aside and try to get them to sit down and form some clarity. Because at the end of
Mhm,
the day, the divorce does end up becoming a business decision. But those are decisions you're going to make for the rest of your life, right?
mhm,
Once you sign that agreement, generally, it's whatever decisions you're making are going to affect you, your kids
mhm.
forever, right?
Right.
I mean, you can have it modified but that's very costly and depending on the language. But generally, it's going to affect you forever. Like where you're going to live, what you're going to make, what are you going to do?
Sure.
But a lot of times women get so anxious and emotionally they're drained. They can't anymore, right? So they end up just signing, I just want to sign this. And it's very sad to see because 5 years later or 3 years later, you have no idea how many women are like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have spoken to you because I just signed and I did not come out where I should have. But I was so
That's
tired of it. Emotionally, I
that's
couldn't
hard.
stand it anymore. I wanted to be out of the situation. So what I do is actually sit down with them. And then we work together in bringing clarity, strategizing, getting looking at their picture of life, where they're at now. So it's like guiding them what to do, where to look. And then we sit down and we say, okay, realistically, what would you like to see? And then realistically, this is what it's gonna should look like. because you have
Hmm.
case law and you have judges. So it's a preparation of everything. And then I really bring in the somatics, the emotional, the mental, self-care for them.
Hmm.
Because we need to, as women, we need to give each other, we need to have grace with ourselves.
Which we have never been taught as
No,
youngsters. Excuse me.
never.
Uh, we're always taught, especially as we were saying earlier, if you're the only daughter or the older daughter, as in my case, you know, we have these responsibilities that were kind of put on us. Um, Maybe it wasn't, spoken out loud, but I think we also feel that. So we're always taking care of somebody else, and somebody else's needs are more important than ours. And I think in midlife, this is a time when we realize that we need to take care of us so we can thrive. Yes, we can still take care of others, but with the phrase, you can't pour from an empty vase, that kind of thing. I get that. But it's cliche, but it really gives a good picture. At some point, we have nothing to give. So this is a self-care is it does it helps us not get to that stage, right?
100%.
We
Yeah.
don't want to be at a point where we're emotionally exhausted and make maybe not the best decisions. You said something before about strategy, and I think strategy, as you said, with both types of clients, the client who has come to you who is in the middle of getting a divorce or going to be getting a divorce, or the person who's come to you and saying, I don't really know where I am. Both of those people, both of those women need a strategy in their life,
Yes.
because I think we get to a point where things are, we've just kind of been going along with, kind of like we're just going along with the current, and we don't have a plan anymore. Had a plan when we were young. We were going to go to college, we were going to do this and get married and do all these great things, and then the plan, it's just kind of whatever the day happens to bring, and that's not much of a strategy.
No, and we do need strategies. What happens, I think, is we let life take over and then we're helping
Mhm.
the family, right? And we put ourselves in the back burner. And so we have to cook dinner or we have to make time for cleaning and the laundry. And it just becomes a lot, right? Take kids to sports. And there isn't really, there ends up not being a lot of time. And you're tired. And if you're going through the hormones, that's an added aggravation on the body, right? So
It
we need
is,
to
and
strategize for all of that. And I think it's so important when I work with women that are just not divorcing, I'm just coaching them on what they should be doing. So I'll give you an example. It was like same thing. We sat down, what are the assets? Let's look into the assets. Everything.
mhm,
And what do you want to see? What's your goal? And one of them has gone from debt to no debt to investment accounts to the proper life insurance accounts to wills, and trust for the future of their children, which are very important things. And we don't want to think about death or we don't want to think about doing that, but it's not very expensive and it's so important, right? So we've put
right,
together a whole strategy.
right, because most of the time we don't think about things like that until sadly it's too late. So again, the strategy piece, I love strategy. It's kind of one of my things. Like, um, we don't have to know the whole picture, because sometimes you have to, as you were saying with this one client, you have to take one step at a time. But what the vision is important. What that goal is important.
Yes.
Knowing how to get there is that step by step.
And I'm going to
And
add one more thing. Even one little step. Once you have a strategy, even if the strategy has, and I try to work with my clients and we do smaller strategies,
Mhm,
right? Like a big picture here, this is what we're going to work on. So we go at a pace.
absolutely.
And just those little pieces, one step in the right direction. Number one, it is so empowering for my clients, for us as women. Wow, I did this. I was able to do it. I understood it. It wasn't as hard as I thought. Plus, they
Wow,
call me back and they're like, how about this? So they always to come back to, and I'm thinking of these two things, or that financial advisor, let's talk about it. So we talk about it, you know,
gotcha.
and it's great. It's always something to come back to, but it's little steps that get us to where we're going, you know?
Yes, and I think it's for me. It's the part of the being a coach. The fun thing for me is when the client comes back and has questions. We're usually the one asking the questions and
Yeah.
trying to move the client forward. But when they come back and they have questions, that to me is I've done my job. I'm doing my job right because it's not about telling the person what to do. It's having the person understand what they want to do,
Hmm.
whether they think they're capable or not.
Exactly, 100%. It's so we ask the questions and we put together what they want, right?
Mhm.
And it's great because it doesn't work with a client that wants you to make the decisions for them. It doesn't work. It has to be a client that
Mhm.
they're empowered because that decision came from what they wanted or needed. And therefore, I'm just a vehicle. I'm just here to get them there, but it's all coming from themselves, which is really
Yes,
the really important piece, I think, Denise. You
I
just
think so. I would agree with that because if it's something we just tell them that they should do, it's never going to stick.
great.
It's like you tell your kids, tell your kids something, that from your experience, don't do this because I did it and it's a bad idea. But they have to kind of learn themselves, right?
Yep.
So when it comes from the client, it's them learning. We're just kind of encouraging them and empowering them along the way.
Yeah, we're helping them find their own strength and their own purpose. And it's actually remarkable how strong women are and all the things that we're capable of doing
Oh,
when we
yes.
find our self-worth again,
Mhm.
which does get lost.
It does. And I have to say, and it gets lost with a lot of women, and women who aren't necessarily going through transition of divorce. I mean, just as the kids leave the house,
Oh yeah.
you know, I, I have a friend who, both of her kids are out of the house now. She's been at her job for, I don't know, many, many years, and it's a fine job. She's great at it. Um, but she's starting to feel a little lost. Is this it?
Yeah.
Like there's got to be more. So she's searching.
Right.
And I think that's important. It's good to be searching. But at some point, when we continue to search, we need to connect with a resource, whether that's you, Michelle, or somebody like me. We need to connect to the resource so we can stop searching and start clarifying, to use your word, if you don't mind.
Yes. Exactly that.
Mhm.
And once your confidence grows and you start trusting yourself,
Mhm.
that's it, and you, yes, I sit with those clients and we're like, same thing. We bring clarity. I bring clarity to them
Yeah.
and help them find what it is they truly want to do in this chapter of life, which is a remarkable chapter. Like I love being in this stage in my life. And talk about healing. Yes, I went through the divorce, the process, my children, the grieving. But if you do that, even if you do that, I'm not going to say right, but if you do that right, quote unquote, you come out healed and your children are generally healed. And if you do that with, trying from a place of clarity, there's less chaos for everyone around you.
I can see that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you had given me a couple of questions, and I do want to ask this one because I think this one's important. What are three common mistakes women make when facing a major transition, specifically like divorce?
Common mistakes is um, one that always comes to mind, and it's like, like fire alarm, is listen to other people that have gone through divorce or are going through divorce.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, because that just puts your nerves at 1,000%. Because as you know, probably every relationship is different.
Hmm.
Behind the closed doors, the dynamics of that particular family is completely different.
Mhm.
Yes, they can, you know, generally everything appears the same, and it's just not. The way you handle conflict, the way you handle finances, everything, just everything in the house. So we don't realize that. And when they're telling you, oh, but so and so, my husband was hiding money, or my husband did this, you're now being fed, and you're so vulnerable and emotional, and you're being fed all this information. And it's probably not even true for you.
Right.
Actually,
It's kind of
most
that
of the time, it's
catastrophize in the
not true for you.
face. Yeah. And you're right. Each one of us is an individual. So obviously our relationships are going to be different. But I think as if as a woman, women are going through a divorce, like say they're, friends are also going through a divorce or been through a divorce, I think they could see it as the same thing.
Hmm.
But I see as you're talking about it, it is very individual. I think that's a really important point that you make there.
Yes, and I wish more women heard this, because I've seen and I see the chaos, and oh, but I need to, call me back. They'll call me and be like, Michelle, my friend just said that her ex was doing this. Do you think? And it's like, no, we take out all the noise. It's really noise. It's only, they have good intentions, right? They're trying to tell you your friend something to protect you. So it's
Right.
not about that. It's about you
Mhm.
keeping your own sanity, sort of, in that sense. So my first advice is like, do not listen to the noise in the room. Try to focus on your particular details, your finances, your life and
Mhm.
his, but not other people's experiences.
Right.
So I think that's key. Like for instance, if you know the finances that are going on in your house, because you just know it, you've been working with your husband, let's say, in the business or whatever, part-time, or you're the one that takes care of the bills, right? So you
Mhm.
know everything that's coming in and out. Well, then you know someone else that says he was taking money, and if you know for sure that that was the only pay, like, so it's little things like that, but those little comments get into your mind, and they actually put you over the edge many times
Yeah. I
emotionally.
could see that.
So that one is a big one, stay in your stay in your facts in your situation. And if you
Mhm.
work with someone with me, we're looking at all of that. Only you, only your dynamics. And we're going to
Mhm.
explore if there's any other things going on, but focus on you. Don't let that get to you. It's only going to give you more chaos.
I can imagine. I mean,
Yes.
that just made that kind of sent my temperature up just as you were talking about it, because I'm like, wow, I can see people doing that. And again, as you said, not maliciously, you know, but yeah, if you don't know what's going on, and I think more often than not, you do have a bit of a clue. Like, things that are not happening
Right.
in a relationship. Um, but when somebody gives you an idea, all of a sudden, oh, well, maybe. And that I could see is really damaging, and how that can increase the stress and the strain, and really the anger. I mean,
The anger. Hmm.
and anger that if about something that's not necessarily true, that makes no that like for us to realize that doesn't make any sense, whether it's in this situation or any situation. So I have a friend who we call her the catastrophizer. um she she's got like a million things, like what if, and 99% of them are things that are never going to happen. I mean, can 1% of the time could something happen? Yeah. But why focus your energy on that 1%, right? And forget about the rest that's good. And so I think even in a situation going through divorce, now I have obviously never been through a divorce. I've been married once to my husband for 23 years. He was divorced before I met him. So I do understand a little bit
Hmm.
different perspective, much different perspective,
Right.
right? And again, so I understand this, like looking at from the outside in is very different. And I think it's important for people to realize that too. Friends are always going to be on your side and they want to be supportive. But when they're on the inside, outside looking in, their information or their advice is kind of useless. And to understand that.
Right. I mean, and
Mhm.
it's great to build a support group, but not to get the advice. You need to have your friend that you go for walks with, or that one person that's always listening to you because we need each other, to be honest. You know,
Absolutely.
um, I was very lucky to have that as well. So
Mhm.
I know the importance of it, but it's not listening to someone giving you facts about your own case that you already know, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. So, how do we, so what is, so for women who are listening to us today, what is one piece of advice you would give them of something we haven't talked about in how they can take a next step, whatever that next step is for them?
So I think when you have clarity in whatever it is you want to do, it helps you get to the next step. And how do you get clarity is make a list of where you're at, right? Where you're at in life right now. If you're sitting today, what, whatever it is you want to do. Let's say you want to know, where am I financially, right? Let's talk about finances, or career wise, or I'm not working, or I'm working in this and I want to shift, like your friend, right? What do I do? So you make a list of where you are now, and then you start thinking, okay, where do I want to be? What
Mhm.
makes me happy, right? Because you want to now work from purpose
Mhm.
and something that fulfills you, right? Because if you're working in a place, I'm just using your friend as an example. If you're working in a place and you're done, kind of been there, done that, don't want to be here forever. Okay, so before you transition, of course, I would say make a list of where you're at now and where would you like to see yourself. And then start taking short, small steps because that'll give you a lot of clarity
Yeah.
and towards that. And we're at a place in life, I think, that we can test the things that we like. If it's something you want to work with children, so go volunteer for a little
It's a
bit.
good point.
Like
Mhm.
if you want to lose weight, let's say, same thing. So you know what, you set little goals of how you're going to get to where you want to be.
Mhm.
So I think it's important as you open up and sit with yourself. I think it's very important to do meditation. Self-care is so important. Even if it's 5 minutes a day in the morning, that's when I do it.
Mhm.
So
So do I.
I think it brings clarity to what you want, and you start focusing, you start seeing what you're focusing on, right? Like once you start
Mhm.
focusing and thinking about something, you start seeing more of it.
Mhm.
Like there was yesterday I
And
was
you attract the things, those things that you're thinking about.
absolutely, I was watching the podcast, and he said, I think it was Tony Robbins, and he said, look around the room and look for anything brown. So the gentleman looks around, okay. And then he says, tell me what you saw in red. And he's like, I didn't see anything in red because what you focus your mind to, you start seeing more of, right? You start attracting.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was very interesting, but that's how life is. So once get some clarity, sit down and write what's important to you, what you need to, what you're really feeling, right?
Mhm.
And then how you like to see yourself, and then kind of see how you strategize on how to get there. But if you
Mhm.
don't have a goal or where you want to be or what you like to do, it's hard to see that future. It's hard to make any change. It's hard to see with clarity.
I can see it. I can understand that. Can I add a piece of something to this?
Of course.
And do it without judgment.
Yes.
I
Without
see
judgment.
so many women judge themselves and their thoughts and their desires.
And that is key. And it's don't judge yourself and don't let other people that are judging you matter.
Amen to that.
Yes, I think that is huge because there's a lot of little things, even going on with podcasts, we're so hard on ourselves, right? Like, what if I fail? Well, who cares if you fail, right? When you have at least you did it. You tried. It's not failure, it's
Exactly.
experience. And then you
I love
pivot.
it. Mhm.
And then you just pivot. And there's so much, but when you do it from a place of clarity, you can see that and you can pivot. When you let the chaos start coming in, um, I was coaching someone yesterday, and one of the issues was her business. And she's like, forget it, I'm gonna go back to what I was doing because I can't, I'm not getting to where I need to be. And it just took a matter of sitting down and giving her clarity back. She lost it because she started allowing the fear of failure and the fear of insecurity and the fear of, oh my gosh, that she lost her focus, she lost her clarity. And the truth is, we came up with, I mean, towards the end of our session, she was in this place of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I let that happen. And it was like, it's okay. You bring yourself back to self and you get the power again. And we came up with ideas. Oh, look, if this doesn't work, this is what you can pivot to. And it was coming out of something that she wanted to do anyways, you know? So that's why it's important to have what makes you happy. What do you see yourself? What do you think would, so it's important to have those lists and come up with that yourself.
I love it. Thank you. I know you have a couple of things that you can share. I know you have a promotion and a gift for our listeners. If you would share that, please.
Yes, I have on my website, which is thedivorcebroker.com, or on Instagram, Divorce Broker Official. I have a 20-minute free consult that they can call and schedule it, and we can discuss anything to see if we're even good fits or if you have any general questions. I'm happy to answer that. Um, so definitely, and if we sign on, I do a 10% discount for my price, which will be in there.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. It's so important to know that we have powerful, intelligent, loving women like you
Yes.
out there as a resource and a support for others. Michelle, thank you for what you do. Thank you for being here with me today and becoming one of my new friends. I do appreciate you.
Yes, thank you for having me. And the same goes to you because what you do is the same, helping women in such a difficult stage, as we go through menopause. So, and you're right, there's a lot of us that are just here to help each other, which hasn't been what we were taught or what we saw before, but there's so many wonderful, amazing women that I've met along in this path. So you're one of them. Thank you. And thank you for having me on your show, on your
Thank
podcast.
you. And right back at you, Michelle. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I hope it's just the first of many.
Yes, I hope so too. Thank you, Denise.
Certainly. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Healthy Living Happy Midlife. We are live, not live, but we are published every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will see you next time. Until then, though, I leave you with this: healthy living, happy midlife. Bye now, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Healthy Living, Happy Midlife. My hope is that today's conversation left you inspired, encouraged, and ready to take the next step toward creating a vibrant, fulfilling life that you deserve. Remember, you don't have to settle for fatigue, brain fog, or frustration. Midlife is not the end of your story, it's the doorway to your next best chapter. And I'm here to help you walk through it with energy, with confidence, and with joy. So if you're ready to take this journey further, I invite you to schedule a free strategy call with me. The link is in the show notes. And together we'll design a plan that works for you at this time in your life, for your body. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Catch the video version on YouTube so you never miss another episode. Share it with a friend who needs to hear that midlife can truly be the most powerful